Welcome back, everyone. Again, my name is Gems, and I'm joined now by Princess Kira. How you doing, Kira?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good. Happy to be on today. I'm actually not Kira today. I'm actually Izzy. But how are you doing?
I'm doing great. That last match was a lot of fun to watch. What was your
Yeah.
favorite part about it?
I love that. I love games that go to game three, and I would always watch the ATX streams that you would run, and I'd be so excited when there was a game three. And I feel the same way about these leagues. I mean, I love to see kind of like the back and forth, like one player takes game one, the other player takes game two. It's still anybody's game. Game three is always so tense and so exciting. It's probably so stressful to be in, but for us casting or watching at home, like I love the nail biters.
Indeed, yeah. Free Pokemon is, I believe, coined by Nibs, where we a whole extra game for free. Didn't have to do anything for it. On our side, players did. But yeah, really exciting stuff to see all those adjustments. But we're moving on to the third game. It's going to be between the Castelia Coppers and the Lunala Dream Eaters. This week, they are at 4-2 right now, so it's still anyone's game in terms of a tie. The Lunala Dream Eaters are at game point for a win right now. And both these teams actually have a previous tie at the Castelia Coppers 0-1-2 versus the Lunala Dream Meters at 2-1-0. So really important game at this point in the season for both these teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, the Cobras can no longer win the week, but it would still be great for them in the differential going into playoffs in a few weeks if they were to be able to take this tie. Dream Eaters, of course, leading them by 2 games. All they need is either this game or their Series 13 match later this afternoon, but still anyone's game when it comes to the tie, so it's definitely still important that these players play their hearts out.
Indeed, yeah, those differentials very important, as well as you get an extra point for that tie there, as opposed to no points for the loss. So we are going to be having featured here on stream. We're going to have coming from the the Lunala Dream Eaters. We're actually going to have Pengy versus Siddarth or Ink from the Castelia Coppers. These are two very accomplished players. You want to tell us a little bit about Pengy?
Yeah, absolutely. Most of us know Pengy from online, but he's also had some great IRL results, winning the Indianapolis Regional Championship with his iconic Kyogre core. Also got top 8 at Liverpool, top 32 at Salt Lake. So great player under pressure. And there's not too much pressure from the Dream Eaters on this side of the week just because, they don't necessarily need to win this game. They could pass it off to their teammate. But looking at their team, definitely a very good chance at winning. But Ink is nothing to sneeze at either, Gems.
Not at all. Ink is incredibly accomplished player. NAIC managed 13th place, as well as the Secaucus Regional with another top 16 finish in 11th place right there. Additionally, during the the World Cup, not World Series, sorry, my brain went to baseball. Victory Road's World Cup in 2021, as a part of Team India, Ink went 3-1, which is incredibly impressive, and that was a really good team in Team India. So getting to see that, but these two teams right off the bat, I feel like we can't not talk about the Eon matchup that we've got going on here.
Yes, I absolutely love seeing Latios facing down Latias. Of course, Pinky does have the more offensive of the Eon duo, Siddarth with the more defensive version. But if those two could come to a match and face each other down, I think that would be absolutely iconic. But to round out Pinky's team, he also has that Firewater Grass Core in Rillaboom, Suicune, and Entei, coining this team Double Dog Online. It's a really great team. I'm excited for him to be able to show that off today. Another grass type with some redirection in Amoonguss, and rounding out the team, a Togekiss, one of my favorite Pokemon. I would love to see it come, but looking at Ink's team, I don't think this is a great matchup for Little Miss Togekiss.
It really doesn't look like it. From Ink, we actually have another Firewater Grass, another non-traditional compared to the usual. We've got ourselves an Incineroar, a Tapu Fini, as well as that Kartana. So those three rounding out that. But additionally, Naganadel, or I'm sorry, not Naganadel, the, oh my gosh, the yeah, Nihilego, the poison rock type. My brain just completely went blank there. I apologize on that. As well as we've got the Thundurus, and that's also Thundurus in the Therian form as opposed to its incarnate form, which we've seen traditionally in most of these VGC series. And then obviously we already talked about the Latias, so being able to see that come out, very exciting. So I'm super excited to see how these two teams face off against each other. That Togekiss not being likely brought in this game makes me a little sad, as well as I love Togekiss.
Really rot in my heart. One more thing I want to point out about Ink is just during the Series 12 format, he was known for his very offensive get Undertale and win games. So it's interesting to see like his new version of a Spike Myth team.
Yeah, indeed. A lot of Pokemon that do hit hard off the bat, we are gonna get it. It's gonna be the Latios right there.
The Latios and the Togekiss. I definitely didn't think the Togekiss was going to come, especially with a threat like the Thundurus, a threat like the Nihilego, like the Kartana. But, hopefully Pengy has a plan to see this through and I don't have to watch my little angel baby die in one hit.
Yeah, for sure. Right off the bat, looking like not loving exactly where it is with the double protect. As the Tapu Fini is actually going to switch in here for Ink and potentially start to set up. So also going to be negating a lot of the damage from that Latios if it wants to go for any Draco Meteors going forward on any grounded Pokemon.
Yeah, absolutely. The double to protect is coming out from Pengy's side of the field, wanting to negate any, fake outs that could be coming out. The other thing is switching in this Tapu Fini over on Ink's side. This Latios is very threatened by fairy types. And the opposing dragon type on Ink's side of the field. So I'm really interested to see, how Pengy is going to be able to maneuver to get this Latios in a better board state, because currently it's not sitting as pretty as it would like to be.
No, and we saw a really interesting interaction there with Togekiss going for Protect last. So it actually still has access to it because it failed on this last turn. So if it wanted to Protect again, it would be able to without the chance of failure.
That is very interesting. Very, very interesting. Another interesting thing about this lead is that he does have the two dogs in the back that both have access to inner focus. So if he thought maybe Ink is going to lead that Incineroar, he could have led both Entei and Suicune, basically negating that Intimidate. And also, it looks like we saw a Psyshock going out into the previous Nihilego slot, but Ink able to predict that and switch in that Incineroar.
Yeah, great team. A great turn right there for Ink. Switching in the Incineroar to eat the Psyshock, completely negating any damage from the Latios, and then getting a big Moonblast off onto it as well. Great stuff right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wasn't sure if it got the drop or not. Either way, might still be underspeeding the Tapu Fini on the other side of the field. Doesn't quite matter because Tapu Fini is going to start setting up a Tapu Fini with Calm Mind, with leftovers, with Incineroar being able to switch in and out with its parting shots and Intimidates. Really sets it up in a great position. If you let it keep going, it's going to get into a very, very oppressive board state there.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that Tapu Fini, not threatened by a whole lot from the other side. We haven't seen the grass type come out yet in Rillaboom. So really Tapu Fini kind of deciding that, hey, if I just get set up, then it's going to be hard for most of these Pokemon to kill me here, or knock me out here. And I really like that call from Ink. But it is also now we're in a position to see exactly how Pengy wants to respond to this with the Kartana. Actually going to go for the Detect right here, not wanting to take something like a Sacred Fire. And the Entei going to go for that Stomping Tantrum, looking for some damage into Kartana. And Suicune wanting to mitigate some of this mind boost from the Tapu Fini with that Snarl.
The avoid from the Snarl, that is awful. But in retaliation, Entei able to avoid that Muddy Water. And another thing I wanted to point out, I'm not quite sure if this is how the interaction worked, but Entei did go for Stomping Tantrum there, a 75 base power move. But if it were to fail or to... Well, if it were to miss, it would double in power the next turn. I'm not sure if a Protect counts as a miss, so I'm not sure how that interaction would work. But if it did work that way, Entei has the possibility to go for a double-powered Stomping Tantrum right now, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, very scary stuff right there, because you can't mitigate the damage with an Intimidate because of Entei's access to Inner Focus. So yeah, definitely, if that does get the boost, I'm trying to remember. I believe Showdown didn't have that the last time I looked, but I might be mistaken. We'll see.
Ooh, and the Incineroar about to switch into the Stomping Tantrum. Entei better hope it doesn't miss this one, which would be quite unfortunate. And of course, with Inner Focus, none of them are dropped.
Yeah, and it's actually a Sacred Fire here coming out. Not the Stomping Tantrum, looking to forego that, but also calling it with going for the Scald right there. Still, this Incineroar really very defensively trained, able to eat up that Scald fairly easily, get access to its Citrus Berry, and it's back to 75% almost right there.
Absolutely. Tapu Fini also going for that Muddy Water again this time. Entei unable to avoid. This is a +1 special attack. Tapu Fini, I do believe, since the Snarl missed, and accuracy dropping on both of the dogs.
Yeah, the accuracy drop right there on both of them. Muddy water games, mind games, always, always, always. They feel great when they work out for you. They feel terrible when they don't. The other important thing there with the Misty Train is expiring. So Latios now, potentially not doing quite as much. Or it will no longer be dinged by the Misty Train, cutting the damage of dragon type attacks. So it's able to come back in, get a full powered one. And do you really want to switch out your Tapu Fini at +1 on both?
Maybe not. Maybe depending on how threatened this Tapu Fini feels. But currently, I don't think this Tapu Fini feels threatened at all. This Entei is one tick of health away. This Suicune can't really do much to it. Maybe give it a burn, but other than that, not really. And it looks like we're going for the Sacred Fire into Incineroar. Maybe predicting a switch out. Scald does miss the Incineroar. The after effects of that muddy water missing. Making the Scald miss, and now this Tapu Fini just gets to go for a free Calm Mind.
Yeah, Ink here just getting pretty much a very, very advantageous turn right there with the miss on the Scald. We saw that Scald wouldn't have been enough damage to knock out the Incineroar, so it still would have likely gotten that parting shot off, thanks to the parting shot that it did earlier in the game into that Suicune. But yeah, now with another Calm Mind set up for this Tapu Fini, really very beneficial position for it.
Another interesting thing I want to note is that Pinky didn't bring neither of his grass types in the face of a Tapu Fini. I do think that Amoonguss is a pretty good answer to Tapu Fini once that Misty Terrain expires. It can't really do much to it with either of its stab attacks. Most Tapu Finis don't carry an ice move. Looks like Leaf Blade just come out to the Suicune. Not able to pick up the one shot, but now both dogs are down in the 30s in Sacred Fire. Misses the Kartana.
No, the muddy water, that double hit and double drops accuracy is putting in so much work for Ink. Also, that muddy water right there, able to double connect yet again and knock out that Suicune before it has a chance to go for the tailwind. So no more speed advantage here for Pengy. Ink just kind of commanding position here, moving first. That's kind of helping out with those positions where you really want to be in that. You want to be moving first. You want to be getting those attacks, so you get more of those drops. You get more chances for misses. But yeah, it's tough stuff if you're Pengy right there.
Absolutely. And if I were in Pengy's shoes, I would be trying to go for as much information gathering as I can right now, trying to figure out the extent of this Tapu Fini's moveset, what the item is. It hasn't taken any damage. We don't know if it's leftovers, Wiki Berry. We don't know the Kartana's full moveset. So interested to see if he wants to play it out. Looks like the Latios is going for that Draco Meteor into the Kartana. I'm interested to see how much this does now that we are not on Misty Terrain. It is not, unfortunately, able to pick up the knockout as it is a resisted hit. I think, Pengy's choosing just to take this, play this out just to get as much information as he can before we head into that game too.
Yeah, indeed. So Leaf Blade there, enough to pick it up into the resisted Latios. Gonna go and get that Beast Boost. Gonna be the attack as well. Most of the time it is with that Kartana. And the final Muddy Water, potentially final Muddy Water is +2. It's single target now. Still not enough to pick up the KO, but at this point, just incredibly advantageous position. And the Air Slash does not crit. We don't know if this Togekiss is crit kiss or not. With both Super Luck and the Scope Lens, could potentially be putting some pressure on those Calm Minds, but at this point, really difficult positioning to come back from after missing so many moves thanks to those muddy water drops.
Yeah, seeing that Air Slash do absolutely nothing really hurt my soul, but at least for Pengy, he was able to confirm that that Tapu Fini is the Calm Mind Leftovers variant. What are some potential switch-ups that you think Pengy can do to bring us hopefully to a Game 3 today?
Yeah, I think Pengy needs a grass type. That Tapu Fini was just too oppressive to not have access to a grass type and put some more pressure onto it earlier on. So many of those Pokemon are special attackers or Entei, and that's not really the position to pressure the opposing Tapu Fini. So I think potentially, any of the grass types might be able to help pressure a little bit more.
Absolutely. That Tapu Fini was so in the driver's seat, just pressing the acceleration. And when somebody really needs to hold up a stop sign and calm it down a little bit, or else this might just be an easy 2-0 for Ink, which nobody really wants to see. Well, the Copers probably want to see, but all of us casting and watching at home would probably like that Game 3. So let's see what the adjustments are going into this Game 2, and let's see if Pengy is able to bring it back.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll go ahead and start off here with Pengy versus Ink here in game number 2 of this week 4 matchup between these Coppers and the Lunala Dream Eaters. So right off the bat, the leads are going to be Nihilego and Incineroar yet again from Ink, and we will see that Suicune and Latios, the adjustment here from Pengy looks like potentially trying to prioritize that Tailwind a little bit earlier and put a lot of pressure onto that Nihilego. You don't have the option of switching in your Incineroar into the Nihilego slot on something like a Psyshock, so a little more annoying if it's if you're Pengy. You get to pester into that slot a lot more.
Absolutely. And Pengy said, okay, last time I didn't have my Latios in the most advantageous position. I didn't get Latios under Tailwind a single turn. So now we're going to set up that Latios and just let it go to town. It is holding that Life Orb with the potential to be able to pick up that one-hit KO knockout onto the Nihilego. It might switch into something like that Tapu Fini with a little bit more special defense in the back, able to hang on. But looks like it is just going for that Protect.
Yeah, again with the turn 1 protects here, not wanting to take the fake out and potentially fake out into Meteor Beam would be very, very annoying to deal with. We will see that does appear to be the turn 1 right here. I think that Nihilego is aimed currently at the Latios, so it will go ahead and absorb its power herb right there.
Ace
So
power.
it becomes, yeah, so it gets to attack in 1 turn, but into the protect it still gets a special attack drop, which is really nice, or special attack boost, which is really nice, and it threatens more next turn.
Absolutely. I really like that Protect from the Latios. I was hoping for maybe like a Tailwind Protect just to ensure that the Latios is moving faster than the Nihilego next turn, but Pengy probably knows the speed tiers better than I do. Hopefully able to go into that Nihilego. It did use up its power herb for this game, so either removing it or forcing it to switch out will definitely take away some of that momentum that Nihilego is currently built up from that power Meteor Beam.
Yeah, and we do see a little sneak preview here from Pengy from the Pokemon in the back. Looks like potentially an answer to that Tapu Fini from last game. Curious to see how Ink adjusted to that, knowing how oppressive it was.
Looks like Sludge Bomb is coming out into that Entei slot that was once the Latios, taking about 75% of its health, 70% of its health. Math and I don't really get along. Entei also taking that parting shot, so both moves from Ink's side of the field targeting down into that Latios. You know, Latios did avoid that damage and did avoid that drop. But is it worth it for Entei to be taking that instead? Not quite sure, but interested to see what Ink is able to bring in now. Of course, that Incineroar is in the back. So if Latios was still on the field and, you know, went for that Psyshock, Incineroar is in the back to potentially switch in.
Yeah, indeed. So great positioning here for Ink with getting all that damage onto that Entei. That's one of the biggest threats to your Kartana. We saw before that Kartana was able to, you know, live a special attack, which always surprises me a little bit when it happens in the previous game. But here we'll see the Protect come out from this Nihilego, not wanting to take something like a Stomping Tantrum.
And again, Entei does go for that Stomping Tantrum. I'm interested to know, I will probably look it up after this game, how that Stomping Tantrum interaction is. You know, if Protect does count as a miss, doubling its damage the next turn. It does look like he's starting to set up that Suicune, or Pengy's starting to set up the Suicune on his side of the field. Tapu Fini going for that Muddy Water once again, taking out the Entei. Suicune not too bothered by it unless it potentially got a little Muddy Water accuracy drop, but it looks like it survived that turn unscathed.
Yeah, with the leftovers getting all the way back up to full health, getting a +1 on your special attack and special defense, Pengy looked at what Ink did last game, decided, hey, I have a Calm Minder of my own. I think that could be pretty beneficial for me. As well as now, finally the reveal, it's the Rillaboom, finally an answer to this opposing Tapu Fini.
Yes, undoing the terrain, giving it that potential grassy glide boost. And it is an Assault Vest, so if Nihilego does go for this Sludge Bomb after, you know, maybe the Rillaboom is able to take out that Tapu Fini, hopefully it'll survive. The Nihilego did not switch out, if I remember correctly, so it is still at that +1 from the Power Herb and the Meteor Beam earlier, so interested to see how this turn plays out, whether or not he calls the Protect from the Tapu Fini, or the Tapu Fini doesn't Protect. I'm also interested to see, you know, if he's going to keep letting this Suicune just set up, because currently not really threatened by anything on the field. Looks like the Nihilego is switching out, and another switch up, we get to see that that Thunderous Incarnate? Question mark?
Therian, but yeah, yeah,
Therian.
for sure, yeah. The Therians are all the ones, the Incarnate are all the genies, and then the Therian are all the kind of animal-like things. But yeah,
Okay.
a great switch in there for Ink as well. Switching into that high horsepower, and you now have something that does threaten this this opposing Tapu, or the, sorry, that was a huge Scald at +1.
Massive Scald.
Yeah, just taking out the Incineroar. It does get the Intimidate onto the Rillaboom, and because these are the last two Pokemon, it's going to stay. Or no, there's still the Latios in the back. I take that back. But yeah, still here in a nice position. The Tapu Fini comes back in and overwrites the terrain though, so you no longer have access to priority Grassy Glides. You still have access to Grassy Glide. You can still use it, but no longer priority. And you might want to preserve that Rillaboom for a time where you can go for those priority attacks. Problem is, both of these Pokemon are fairly threatened. It just comes down to which Pokemon you want to try and take some damage from, because this Thundurus can go for really powerful electric type attacks into the Suicune, and we'll just see a U-turn coming out from this Rillaboom, looking for some chip there onto the Thundurus, potentially to put it in range of an Ice Beam from this Suicune.
Yeah, hopefully Tapu Fini didn't go for any sort of like Moonblast into that slot, calling the Latios switch, because that would be very, very, very detrimental to Pengy's game plan here. Although the Latios, it might not be his end game anymore. It might be removing the Thundurus and then allowing the Tapu Fini to go to town. And it looks like or allowing allowing the Suicune to go to town instead. It looks like we see Volt Switch from that Thundurus, bringing back the Nihilego in. No more Incineroar to potentially take a Psyshock from the Latios. So interesting to see, what both players do from this point on.
Yeah, and that was a huge turn right there. That Snarl plus the Calm Mind boosts for the Suicune really helped it preserve the amount of damage coming out from a Volt Switch from a very powerful special attacking Pokemon in Thundurus Therian. So yeah, great awareness right here of trying to get the Suicune set up for the end game and just be both bulky. You have speed control in the form of Tailwind, and then on top of that you have some disruptive attacks in Snarl, as well as Scald, which could get a burn on any physical type Pokemon. Not going to be right here just because of the misty terrain, but still can be very annoying.
Absolutely, and it looks like that Protect's coming out from both sides. Latios going for Protect, Nihilego going for the Protect, probably predicting each other, attacking in. Tapu Fini going for another Calm Mind, knowing that it's not really threatened by his Latios. The Suicune can't really do much to it. So it's just going to keep setting up. Snarl, of course, not going into the Nihilego, does connect with the Tapu Fini, which is huge for Pengy, because although it is boosting its special defense, it now has neutral special attack because of these Snarls.
Yeah, the Snarl is going to continue to be a big part going forward, especially Ink at this point really needs some way of trying to deal with the Rillaboom in the back, especially once it gets access to the grassy terrain yet again. And at this point, it's really the Nihilego and potentially whatever the fourth Pokemon is going to be, which we've seen is the Thundurus, which doesn't typically carry a whole lot. Maybe it has access to something that can be tacked on for the Rillaboom specifically, but here we'll see it's just going to be a Psyshock into that slot. And a lot of times these are Assault Vests. That does not look like it right there, though.
No, yeah, no survival chance there if there is no Assault Vest. Looks like a Moonblast coming out into the Latios, but I feel like Latios at this point has kind of done its job, and it does hang on. So Snarl able to come out into this Tapu Fini, taking it to -1. But like I was saying earlier, I think this Latios' only job in Pengy's endgame is to remove that Thundurus to, more so to remove the Nihilego. The Thundurus doesn't really threaten the Rillaboom as much, especially because it has that Assault Vest. So it's a good thing that Latios did hang on. Hopefully lives to see another turn, able to go for a Psyshock into Nihilego, although you do have to be wary of that Protect.
Yeah, indeed. It continues to protect on these turns, and we see here we're double checking the number of turns of terrain are left, how many turns of Tailwind are left, just so Pengy can be absolutely sure that correctly calling this is going to be important to closing it out, but not necessarily entirely vital. But we will see the Latios go ahead and go for the Protect. Nihilego calling it this time around, though, going for the Sludge Bomb, not doing a ton of damage because of those Calm Mind special defense boosts from the Suicune from earlier on in the game. And we now see as the Tapu Fini is going to go ahead and try and get itself a little bit bulkier with another Calm Mind.
Absolutely, and it looks like Scald going out into the Nihilego. Even, with those Calm Mind boosts, still not enough to take it out from Suicune. Probably more so invested into the defensive side, just because Suicune is so bulky. You want to be able to capitalize on that, especially if you are running Calm Mind with leftovers. Looks like Latios is switching out, maybe calling a Protect from Nihilego this turn, because, it's all about the mind games when it comes to these late game Protects. And because Ink only has 2 Pokemon left and they are on the field, the grassy terrain will stay for the rest of this match.
Yeah, depending on how many turns are left. But yeah, great call there from Pengy, calling the Protect from Ink being able to get in this Rillaboom for free, no chance of a Sludge Bomb. Here comes the potential for shenanigans with the Muddy Water going off. We see that there are no accuracy drops, which is really, really big for Pengy for the ability to close this out, not leaving it to chance at this point.
Absolutely. And it seems like Calm Mind, Muddy Water, uh, uh, Moonblast, and I don't know if we've seen Protect from the Tapu Fini in this game or the last game. It probably is carrying Protect just so it can Protect to get some more leftover recovery. So it's kind of like a 50-50 whether or not you want to Grassy Glide to the Tapu Fini this turn, or maybe go for a high horsepower into Nihilego, assuming that the Nihilego is going to... Okay, so it does have that Protect. Good thing that it looks like Pengy did not target into that Tapu Fini. Could have been very detrimental. Instead, going into that Nihilego, and even though it's not very, or it's just neutral, it is able to take out the Nihilego, basically cleaning up this end game for Pengy. I'm not quite sure what the Tapu Fini can do other than potentially surviving a Grassy Glide and then Muddy Water accuracy dropping its way to victory.
Yeah, that's a pretty tall task to ask from this Tapu Fini, especially because the Snarls have been reducing its special attack boosts from those Calm Minds. So yeah, going forward is gonna be pretty tough for this Tapu Fini to kind of close it out right here. But if there's one way to do it, it's through accuracy, right?
And, we do have to remember that Muddy Water is an 85% accurate move, so it could also miss. Taking it down to about 80% of Tapu Fini's health. It's actually just going for the Moonblast here, going into this Rillaboom, and Rillaboom is Assault Vest, so it doesn't really worry about taking those Moonblasts.
Yeah, that is... Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm so sorry. I was just gonna say, it's pretty much cleaned up for Pengy, so it's up to Ink whether or not he wants to forfeit to preserve any more information, or if he wants to play it out.
Yeah, I like the play there, though, to go for the Moonblast and try to determine the item on this Rillaboom. I'm not sure if we've seen the Rillaboom hit with a special attack up until this point. So the knowledge that that's how much the Moonblast did, probably pretty good indication that it is, in fact, going to be the Assault Vest. So good information for Ink. Got what he needed and went ahead and got out of there after that, not wanting to have to play out the rest of this. But
I
yeah,
didn't want to watch Tapu Fini die.
exactly. Who wants to watch their Tapu Fini, go down? Never a fun thing to see. But we do get exactly what you wish for, game 3. So we get some free Pokemon. We saw just how oppressive that Suicune can be when it's properly set up. So I guess going into that, what do you want to see in the adjustments from both these players?
So I love the adjustments that Pengy made. I don't think that the Entei is doing exactly what he wants it to do. Of course, Ink only brought the Kartana that first game, so I don't know. The Entei didn't really get to do much. It missed a couple Sacred Fires. The Sacred Fires it did miss went into something like that in Incineroar. It didn't really feel like it was contributing to the match, but Ink might kind of like call that because these two players do know each other very well. They played each other a lot, both online and in person at events, so they can kind of get into each other's minds, which is what I'm a little worried about for this game 3. But love the adjustments over on Pengy's end, and on Siddarth's end, I really think that he needs to direct that Suicune a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe something like preserving the Cortana to leaf blade it in the end game, because of course it's only boosting itself on the special side. So interested to see, whether or not Ink allows Pengy to get that Suicune set up again, because of course, his own Tapu Fini is really threatened by that Rillaboom, so he can't quite do the same.
Yeah, I'm almost thinking, does Ink even bring the Tapu Fini in this game 3? I know its utility is huge, both from a type perspective as well as the train perspective, but at this point that Rillaboom was so oppressive. If you bring something else that you can tech in that can potentially check that and still check the Latios, might be a better call going forward. We'll see. But I'm also very, very interested to see how that Thunderous play could be potentially tweaked a little bit. If it gets in sooner on that Suicune, it threatens that thing quite a bit.
Yeah, I just remember once that Suicune had a +2 in the special defense, Volt Switch was doing absolutely nothing, but it looks like we're going to go ahead and get into this game 3 between Pengy and Siddarth. I'm so excited to see the adjustments from both of these players, if there are any at all.
Yeah, for sure. We've seen a similar lead both times from Ink, and in game number 3, we're going to see the change up right off the bat, Tapu Fini plus Kartana, deciding I don't want that Suicune to set up on me yet again.
Absolutely, but for on Pengy's side of the field, he does have that Entei, he does have access to that Sacred Fire, no fake out from Siddarth's side of the field, so so you could go for something like Protect, something like a Tailwind, something that threatens the Kartana and the Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini, on the other hand, can just go for a Muddy Water here, potentially either taking out the Entei or just doing a massive amount to its damage, getting some Oh,
Kartana going for the substitute, not a move we see very often. We've seen two status moves there with the substitute plus the the substitute and the detect actually earlier on in the game, not protect, detect. So yeah, interesting set here from this Kartana as the Muddy Water is going to go ahead and come out from this Tapu
ooh.
Fini double connect. Um,
No, not double connect.
oh,
Missed
I
the
missed it. Missed the
Entei.
Entei. Oh my gosh, I missed it.
Absolutely massive for Pengy. And the Kartana avoiding the snarl, of course, it doesn't quite matter, but my goodness, these not 100% accurate moves really showing their stuff in game 3 today.
Yeah, live by the Muddy Water, die by the Muddy Water. Difficult kind of reposition around that right there. This weekend there notably did not go for anything like a Calm Mind to try and get itself set up. I know it feels pretty threatened here by this Kartana. We do see the speed tiers Kartana faster than the Entei, so could still go for a Leaf Blade. Worth it. That's going to be a call by Siddarth if it's worth it to potentially sacrifice your Kartana for one Leaf Blade. The full Suicune moveset, but it could also switch out here, which would be pretty devastating.
It does look like that Suicune is switching out into the Rillaboom, so if Siddarth's Kartana did go for that Leaf Blade, Rillaboom's not going to be taking much damage, even though they are giving that Kartana a boosted Leaf Blade on this grassy terrain.
Yeah, that's something that's always a little scary. Leaf Blade having access to that additional boosted crit rate, but it is going to be just a detect here. So this Kartana, without the access to Tailwind from the Suicune, is always going to move before this Entei, so it could kind of continue to go for moves to stall out the Entei's attacks while this Tapu Fini tries to get set up. But the Rillaboom really disrupting that, having access to both Fake Out and Grassy Glide, which threatens the Tapu Fini quite a bit.
Absolutely. This Tapu Fini is kind of forced to either, eat up a Grassy Glide, protect, or get off the field. And it looks like the Kartana on Ink's side of the field chose to get off the field, switching this Incineroar, putting Rillaboom at -1 because maybe Siddarth is thinking that Tapu Fini can tank this -1 Grassy Glide, and it very comfortably can. My goodness. Makes
Yeah.
me think that even +1 or a neutral wouldn't even take out this Tapu Fini. It looks like and he did go for that Sacred Fire, missed the Incineroar, but once again dodges a Muddy Water. So this Entei
Yeah,
said, I'm not getting wet this game. I am staying
exactly.
dry.
Yeah, Entei with the dancing shoes in this battle right here, really important there. But Tapu Fini also kind of showing off the bulk. I know last game we saw it do about 75%, so at -1 here, doing that 50%. Now you get access to your grassy, you get the benefit of the grassy terrain in recovery as well as via the leftovers. So you're kind of healing a lot on each turn. You could easily protect this turn if that's what feels most beneficial, or you could go ahead and continue to put on pressure because you live outside of a crit. 2 more Grassy Glides at this point.
Hmm. Yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely. Looks like Pinky kind of grappling with what to go for here with this Entei because, you did dodge 2 Muddy Waters, but this +1 special attack Tapu... Actually, no. Did a Snarl connect with the Tapu Fini earlier? It might just be a neutral Tapu Fini, but still, Tapu Fini with a great special attack stack, the Water type stab, could still, do a lot to this Entei, including dropping his accuracy, but it looks like a Fake Out going into that Rillaboom. Of course, he cannot Fake Out the Entei. Entei going for Stomping Tantrum is able to connect with the Incineroar, and because, no Shuka Berry on this Incineroar is brought down to about 90% of its health, chomping on its little Citrus Berry, taking some recovery, so it lives to see another turn.
yeah, so the Muddy Water coming out. This time the Rillaboom avoiding. I think that this Tapu Fini might have forgotten its glasses in this game, but now with the +1, I think it's had 1 Calm Mind at this point. So that +1 into the Entei. After the Grassy Terrain recovery does, just about half. So another 1 should be enough to take it out. And you have to be a little bit careful of that, especially as this Tapu Fini continues to get recovery through both the Grassy Terrain and the leftovers. Something like switching out the Incineroar could also potentially get another Intimidate down later in the game onto that Rillaboom, kind of continuing to limit its utility for the rest of this match.
Yeah, the only unfortunate thing for this Incineroar, though, is we know that Kartana is in the back. We don't know what else is in the back. Could be the Latias, could be the Thundurus, 2 of which can dodge a Stomping Tantrum. But if he does have that Kartana or that Nihilego in the back, you can't really safely switch into a Stomping Tantrum here. So interested to know what the Incineroar wants to do here. Looks like Entei just going for a Sacred Fire instead, potentially calling a Kartana switch. Oh, and Rillaboom going for that high horsepower, able to finish off the Incineroar. no more intimidates, no more fake outs, no more parting shots from inside of the field.
Yeah, and no more fire type attacks either. That's one of the other important things into that Rillaboom. Entei was one of those Pokemon, or I mean, sorry, the um, wow, another dodge there from Entei, I believe.
Yeah.
Wow, oh my gosh, this Entei just really, it's out here, it's dodging, it's ducking, it's darting, it's dodging again. And it's just saying, I don't really want to get hit by this muddy water. I'm afraid of the muddy water. No, thank you. I'm good.
Kind of gross. Yeah, we don't want it.
Yeah, no one wants to go to the Galveston beach, which is a little inside joke for the people here in Texas. But yeah, now the Kartana is out and it is threatened by another Sacred Fire. We do know that it's faster, but has access to those moves like Detect and Substitute, which can start to draw into the attacks and potentially waste a turn from Pengy. As this Tapu Fini says, eventually you will get hit by my muddy water. You cannot dodge them all.
I mean, it's now missed 4 Muddy Waters, so only connecting one single target each time. Somebody is always dodging. This poor Tapu Fini really just needs to go to get its eyes checked because this poor Tapu Fini is just missing so many moves. Looks like Kartana's going for that Detect there. Maybe predicting an Entei going for that Sacred Fire, though, and a Grassy Glide going into the Tapu Fini, but once again, still not enough to really do much damage. Oh my gosh, Gemma, it is finally hitting both targets. I'm so proud.
It is at the exact worst time when it is not very effective on either and gets no accuracy drops whatsoever. So unfortunate there for the Tapu Fini not getting nearly as much utility out of this. But again, you know, if you're going by the muddy water plays, it makes it so incredibly difficult to have to rely on that going forward the whole time. I also believe that Penny hasn't at this point revealed any fire type attacks on this Latios. So I believe it's just been the Psyshock as well as the Draco Meteor. We saw the Draco Meteor not enough to KO the Kartana from full. So potentially something else could. So we'll see here exactly what Pengy wants to go for. But again, getting some very beneficial rolls with that Entei, getting to stick around for as long as it has, and then being able to pivot these Pokemon in.
Absolutely. And we did just see a little tidbit of information. The Tapu Fini is not boosted in its special attack at all. It only has that +1 special defense boost. So the Muddy Water that hit Entei earlier was just natural Tapu Fini attack stat, which is pretty exciting. Looks like the Nihilego is the last Pokemon on inside of the field. Something you don't quite want to see when, you know, you still have that alive Entei with a Stomping Tantrum move and a Rillaboom with high horsepower.
Yeah, it's still gonna be pretty tough to go from here. Tapu Fini here saying enough's enough with Muddy Waters. I'm tired of missing. Let's go for a Moonblast. It's gonna hit. It's gonna KO. And with that Mystical Fire though on the earlier, that's also gonna be important to the Nihilego, potentially dropping its special attack if it had a chance to attack. But that high horsepower, calling the potential switch in, it was. I like that play a lot from Pengy being able to cover for both of the options there. If it stays in, Kartana goes down. If it switches, then Nihilego goes down to the second attack. So great play from Pengy.
Absolutely. I also just want to note that this is still a -1 Rillaboom.
Yeah. It's minus
like
one Rillaboom, but
Kartana.
yeah, the Nihilego's defense is not anything necessarily to write home about on the physical side.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it is 4 times super effective, but looks like, you know, last 2 Pokemon from Siddarth. We do have a +1 special defense Tapu Fini, but it is in the face of this Rillaboom that doesn't have terrain anymore. I'm surprised that, you know, it hasn't been switched out to, you know, reset that attack drop, reset the terrain.
Yeah, same. I believe at this point Pengy just kind of identifies I can do that at some point, and because of my Assault Vest, I don't go down to like a crit Moonblast at this point. So I feel pretty safe staying in here and going for attacks, and you know, potentially getting some momentum by going for like a U-turn instead to switch out rather than just a direct switch.
Yeah, and he did attempt to go for that U-turn here, but the Kartana did protect. You know, just wanted to kind of like buy some time, but this by buying time, it did buy time for the Suicune to set up some tailwinds here. Potentially, you know, allowing anything that Pengy has in the back, like the Entei, to outspeed this Kartana and just take it out with that Sacred Fire. It doesn't have any accuracy drops on it. So, you know, Sacred Fire is still not 100% accurate, but pretty good chance to hit and a very good chance to take out this Kartana.
Indeed, yeah. But at this point, too, this Kartana, while, you know, it's currently on the field, nothing threatens a KO onto it that I can see. So it is free to go for a Leaf Blade into that Suicune slot if you know, potentially if Pengy leaves that out to dry, could lead to at least 1 KO, and then maybe you end up getting lucky with some detects and getting the plays correctly or getting some knockouts on the switch after a U-turn or something. But we will see. It's going to be a protect here from Siddarth. Going to go ahead and not want to take any damage into this Tapu Fini. Going to protect itself from that Grassy Glide. Not in terrain, but still would have done a good amount of damage. And the Scald right here, despite being resisted, still does a pretty nice little chunk of change. Does not get the burn, most importantly, though.
And it's just so interesting to see this Kartana go for a substitute. So it has a tech substitute, Leaf Blade, and I don't know if we've seen the last move. It's presumably something like a Sacred Sword, some sort of fighting coverage. But it's very interesting to see this Kartana just go for that substitute. Hopefully, wanting to pick off the Suicune in the next turn, get a Beast Boost, sit behind the substitute, knowing that Rillaboom can't really do much about it. Rillaboom trying to get off the field once again, going for this U-turn. Tapu Fini cannot protect, so it's going to reset the -1 attack on the Rillaboom and potentially, set up an endgame grassy terrain for this Rillaboom.
Yeah, it is a little bit scary here because that Scald was very close. Oh my gosh, that right off the bat, is that a crit right there? Yeah, that's a critical hit.
Oh
Yeah,
man, oh man.
tough way to go, but the more turns you're on the field, the more chance you have to get crit. So never fun. And Snarl, because it is a sound-based move, also goes through that substitute. So still doing a ton of damage because it is in fact because it is so poor on its special defense, it still takes a lot of damage from that Snarl. It's also single target, and all, at this point, the Kartana pretty much has no options. Having to 1v3 with such little health. You do have the substitute, but again, the Snarl goes right through the substitute, and it's faster than you. You have to rely on a dodge, and then a lot of very lucky things need to happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. What a game. Oh my goodness. From how that game one went, Ink was just in such a commanding board state that it was, kind of like hard to see, how is Pengy going to come back from this? Rillaboom. Rillaboom is how you come back
Yep.
from it. It is the second most used Pokemon in this format, right after Incineroar. And it's just you could have seen it in that last game. It's so oppressive. And, with that Assault Vest, even a boost of Tapu Fini can't even take it out. So what an incredible game from two incredible players. What were some of your favorite moments from that set?
Yeah, that was a really impressive game from both those players, and I think that it really came down to that game adjustment with getting that Suicune set up and getting it bulky. I think that was awesome. I would have loved to have seen what might have happened if a couple more of those connected with in game 3 with Tapu Fini, but still, that's one of the risks you run with 85% accurate moves.
Absolutely. And with that, the Lunala Dream Leaders have taken the win over the Castelia Copers, securing them a 5-2, maybe a 5-3, depending on how this last Series 13 match goes today. But Lunala Dream Leaders do take the win for the week, so congratulations to them. Copers, keep on keeping on. I believe in y'all. And with that, Gemma, thank you so much for having me. I am off for the day, so everybody hang tight. We still have one more very exciting match, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back with you soon.